because it's a strange job to do, especially as someone from, an Asian background. And especially because I was good in school. And I wanted to be a doctor at one point in my life. So I could have, it's like doctor or jazz musician. Yeah. And she goes and chooses a jazz musician. Like, really?
Guys, we are back. They've asked me to do another episode. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? Welcome to the Undefeated podcast with me, Chardonnay. Today's guest, I'm so looking forward to talking to. She's a pianist extraordinaire, a producer that is just killing it right now, not only in the UK, but internationally. Please, everyone, give it up for Hannah V.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Thank you. That was such a nice intro.
Thank you.
I love it.
Do you go by Hannah V?
Yes, Hannah V.
We love it. We love it. So I actually got the pleasure of meeting you last week. Not last week.
I was just like, am I pretending that we met last week? That's cool. I can run with it.
Do you know why? Because you're just such a familiar face. I feel like I'm always seeing you, but it's not last week. It was last year.
Yes.
It was last year?
Yeah, last year.
Pandemic. Yeah. And because you're always booked and busy, no matter if it's a pandemic or not, you asked me to do your photography for a brand deal you got.
That's right.
So I got to meet you then, got to find out a little bit more about you then. But this is really for the viewers at home to know what kind of masterpiece I'm talking to today.
Oh, bless you. So, gassing me.
Gassing you. So I already mentioned it in your intro. Play the piano. Producer. What else do you do?
Producer, pianist, writer, and all around trying to be a good human being, I'd say.
Yes, love that. So let's take it back to the beginning. Was you always interested in music, or did you have another passion?
You know what? I started piano lessons like so many people in music quite young. So I was living in India for a couple of years when I was 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I started piano lessons there. I don't remember them at all. My uncle used to take me on his bicycle, to the piano lessons. So I don't really remember that, but I know I started quite young. So then when I moved back to Germany, which is where I was born and raised, I kind of ended up going to an international school when I was about 12. And they had a really strong music program there. Before that, I was also in classical piano lessons in Berlin. And I just really loved the piano, So my parents got me a piano, and I come from a very supporting household as well. My parents were totally behind me. And so even before I went to the international school, I was kind of into classical piano lessons, and I got kind of to a competing stage. So I was doing a couple of competitions around. I wasn't winning them, but I was still entering. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was at a certain level where I guess I was taking it more seriously than possibly other students.
Right.
And then everything kind of went up a notch when I went to the new school, this international school, which had an amazing music program. And some of the music teachers kind of just realized that there was something there, and so they put me in choirs and bands, and I started playing there. I was also playing a lot in church.
Wow.
And so I always say I was very fortunate to kind of have like a three-pronged attack in many ways. I had church, I had school, and I had family and piano lessons, supporting me. And I just ended up kind of, every day I'd be in the music building after school. I'd be playing for every band, every choir, jazz bands, ensembles, any friends of mine that needed accompanying. I was just that chick,
Yeah, you was that go-to person.
I was that go-to person. And I was very lucky as well that friends, loads of my best friends were also into music, and I think that's so important too, that it's not just you alone doing it. So I had bands, and we were awful, but we thought we were amazing. But that's all part of the process, And so we do the kind of practicing in a friend's basement after school and just playing really loud and being obnoxious. But still, I fired my first musician when I was 16. Like, who the hell do I think I am? Yeah. And again, now I think back and I was like, Hannah, what was your problem? And it was so dramatic. It felt so dramatic back then. But again, now when I look back at it, it's all experience,
Everything for a reason, 100%.
And, I was always performing in school or kind of, even though my gigs were small, basically like our parents and our parents' friends booking us, it was still gigs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think like my path to become a professional musician in many ways, because it was so supported. And I did like summer camps. I did summer jazz camps. I went to the States for like 5 weeks, like amazing stuff, like amazing opportunities. A lot through the school,
Yeah.
And so I feel for me, it wasn't even like a big decision to become a musician or not. It was so obvious that that's what I was going to do. I mean, to the point where in the end, in my last couple of years, like I went to my French teacher. I was like, bro, you know I ain't going to do French.
Yeah.
Can you just pass me? And he's like, you know what? Okay, cool. So I got passes for sure, just because everybody just knew I was going to get into music,
Yeah, and it was kind of clear from day one. How does it feel? Because I know for me personally, me doing DJing now, that's something that took years to realize that's what I wanted to do. And then when it was working for me, it just kind of fit, like everything just kind of went smoothly.
Yeah.
So I knew that was my calling. How did it feel kind of knowing what your calling was from such a young age?
I think when I was younger, I didn't think about it. It's only now I realize how lucky I am, because it takes people a long time to find out what they want to do. And that's fine, you know? And that's the thing. There's no rules in this stuff. I know amazing musicians that started late, started in their 20s or whatever. It doesn't matter. There's no one path to your calling. But I think I was really lucky to have had it so early, because in many ways, there's certain decisions I just didn't have to make. You know, like I knew I wanted to study music. I knew I wanted to do music. I knew what I had to do. I needed to practice. I knew I needed to surround myself by musicians. I knew I needed to listen to certain records. There are certain things that just I knew what to do. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, piano. Why the piano? Like, did someone say to you, like, was you at a friend's house maybe, and then you saw a piano and you was like, oh, let me try and play it, or would someone put you into lessons straight away? Like, how comes you knew that was the instrument for you?
Again, I don't have like that one memory of me and the piano like becoming besties.
Yeah.
I think again it was just the thing that was. You know. I loved my piano lessons, like my classical piano lessons. And I had a really strict German classical teacher. Oh, my gosh. And I love her, Elke Damaschke, you're a G. She was really strict, though. So, like, I was only allowed to play what she told me to play. And, like, once I accidentally had bought, like, some other music because I heard someone else play something. And I bought, like, a Schubert piece. And I accidentally brought it to piano lessons, and she saw it, and she's like, what is this? Why are you doing this? I was like, I'm so sorry. I just really love this piece of music, you know?
No.
But she was really, as strict as she was, and like, I don't agree with those type of methods now.
Yeah.
She also gave me such a strong basis in terms of technique. And, you know, sometimes you just need, sometimes you need a strict teacher to get you to a certain place, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always kind of, I remember even when I was younger, just losing myself when I was playing, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just something that continued. And I think especially when I was a teenager, and things get tricky for all of us when you start growing up and you're trying to find your place in the world. Music was my identity. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt so lost in so many other areas of my life, but I knew I was a musician.
Right, absolutely.
And that's like, I was so grateful for that, because that's one thing. You can say whatever you want about me, but I'm a pianist. I know that. Absolutely. I'm a musician, you know? So to have that was a strength. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just my personal strength, my backbone. So again, it's like one of those things where it was just always there for me, you know? And I was always a music fan as well. So that's like, it wasn't only about making music. I would go to the library for hours and just listen to music. I would go to gigs. I would sneak into jazz clubs when, you know, we weren't old enough to go.
Yeah.
But we just knew the owners, and they'd just be like, oh, fine.
Come in.
You know, and then even my parents were just like, I was like, Dad, I'm going to be home late because I'm going to a gig, please. And they'd be like, oh, okay, fine. You know,
they supported you.
because they knew, like they knew, and in a way we were taken care of, you know, like Absolutely. Me and my other friends, sneaking into clubs and all of that. It was fine. It's like, it's a jazz club. It's fine, you know, like, and so I guess it was just always just such a passion. Yeah.
That's such an incredible story. When did you know that it could be a career? Because I'm not going to lie, music's scary to get into, because there's no promises about it. There's no like for instance, if you go to, I don't know, law school and you study to be a lawyer, there's a high chance of you becoming a lawyer because you have the qualifications for it. There's no real qualifications in music. I mean, you can go to music school and get something out of it, but there's no real, I can make it as a musician. So when did your passion become something you said, actually, I can make this a career? And what was the first movements you made towards that?
Well, thankfully, I didn't know how hard it was going to be. You know, and I think that's why I made that decision. I was like, of course I'm going to become a musician. Of course it's going to work.
Yeah.
Very naively, you know. And I think if I would have known how actually crazy the music industry is and how hard it is and how long it takes and how you need so many more skills than just being a good musician, you know. Who knows what decisions I would have made. But, you know, when you're young, you're full of hope, you know, you're not cynical yet. And for me, it was just like, yeah, of course I'm going to study music. I don't know where I want to study, but I'm going to study music. I'm going to study piano. And I wanted to be a pianist initially, you know, like that was my main goal. And so I wasn't overthinking it. And again, that's youth, isn't it? I just thought it would be a straight path to success.
Of course.
And of course, as we now all know, like, there ain't no thing as a straight path.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I didn't overthink it.
Absolutely. And how much did the support from friends and family help you in the start of your career?
I mean, it's not even the start of my career, even to now, you know. It helps me so much because there are moments where we all feel we're tired and we don't know what we're doing it for, you know, because any job, but especially the creative industries, can be difficult. And to have kind of friends and family kind of support and believe in you is so important. You need that extra strength sometimes, you know, because it's a strange job to do, especially as someone from, you know, an Asian background. And especially because I was good in school. So I wanted to be a doctor at one point in my life. So I could have, you know, it's like doctor or jazz musician. And she goes and chooses a jazz musician. Like, really? You know, my parents were cool, but I feel like my extended family were probably
was a bit like really?
Are you sure? Are you sure? No? It means so much to me to this day that especially my parents coming from a traditional background, and my parents aren't modern parents, they're still traditional. But for some reason, they saw the passion and they just let us do what we needed to do, what we wanted to do, and supported us. And to this day, that's, in many ways, I feel it's given me the strength to continue and like pursue even bigger dreams and just never stop.
And speaking of pursuing bigger dreams, you said you was born in Germany, was in India for a bit, went back to Germany, and then you made the decision to come to England.
Yes.
Now tell me about what went into that thought process, and also how difficult was it? Was it difficult? Was it easy? Was it like, what was the experience for you?
So the thought process, so I knew I wanted to study music, and I knew I wanted to study jazz, and I knew the best jazz schools weren't in Germany at that point anyways, you know? And I initially was thinking of going to the States, but it was too expensive, straight, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the courses there are really like, the big music colleges are very expensive.
Right.
And so I thought, I started researching to London, and there was a couple of really good, amazing colleges. And because back then we were part of the EU still, you know,
yes, back then.
things were different. And so I decided to audition for a couple of schools, and I ended up getting into the Royal Academy of Music.
Wow, that is
which
amazing.
Was crazy, and I really didn't expect me to get into that, because the way the academy works is they only take one per instrument. So
no way.
My year was 7 people, you know, and I was the only pianist.
Wow.
So it's like very, very
Congratulations.
difficult. Thanks, babes.
Even though it's like well overdue.
Yeah, but you
still.
know, and again to this day, I'm just like, how did I get in again? You know,
Wow.
but so that was like when I remember just bursting into tears when I got my acceptance letter, because I really, really wasn't expecting that, you know. And again, I was really fortunate that my best friend, who's a singer, got into the Guildhall School of Music same time, and so. We moved together, even though we didn't live together.
Oh, lovely.
It was kind of like I wasn't alone, you know. And there was another friend from school that had been there for a couple of years, and so I ended up living with her initially. And so I was again very lucky that, even though it was crazy, it was like my first time, I guess, you know, like as a young adult, moving home, you know, moving to a different country, different culture, being broke, all of that stuff, you know, that comes with kind of being a student. I still had a couple of people there, you know, and we had these experiences together in a way, and that was really helpful. It was hard, of course, it was hard. Moving is always hard, you know. Like I still like remember saying goodbye to like my family and like bawling and knowing, that, you know, like our lives are going to change now.
Did you think you were going to see them again? Because obviously, I will get onto it a bit later on. Yeah. But did you at that point think, I'm not going to see you for a while, or I'm going to be commuting back and forth? Like, what did you think? I
mean, I knew I wasn't going to see them regularly anymore, you know? And I knew everything would change.
Mm-hmm. You were prepared for that?
In a way, I thought I was, but it was hard. Of course it is. You know, I think moving, making that first move from home is always tricky.
And was you the first one out of your family to make such a big move?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy. So then after you're no longer a student, how comes you decided to stay in London? And also, how did that work in terms of like, did you have to get a visa? Or, you know, how did that, in terms of accommodation, how was it all done?
Well, in terms of like me being allowed to stay in the UK, because I had a German passport, it was fine, you know?
Okay.
So there was nothing, again, EU and all of that. I was allowed to stay, work, do whatever I needed to do. Accommodation and all of that, it was hard. It was hard. I moved from place to place to place to place. After I graduated, so I was at the conservatory for 4 years. I graduated and I just didn't have enough gigs or didn't have enough music work to really make it to survive.
Yeah, good question. How did you actually make a living in that
I had
time?
to have real jobs, you know.
Really?
So I was, I taught a lot of piano. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'd kind of taught in schools. I taught private students, which was like not easy because they were like rich, bratty kids.
Yeah.
It was just like me running around Notting Hill from like one bratty kid to another. It was a lot. Every bar and every hotel in London that has a piano, I've probably played there before, you know.
Wow.
And then I worked at the record label, at Al's initial record label.
Yeah.
Alexis, who we've all ended up working for and with. I worked there. I worked as a PA. I did anything and everything I needed to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I do what I need to. I've always been like quite a survivor in many ways. So like even when like the phone rang when I was just, and somebody said, "Yeah, Hannah, can you be a PA for an engineering firm?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'll do it." You know. So even like in college, while I was at the academy, I have to work because unlike the other students there, we wasn't flossing like that. Do you know what I mean? So I always had to keep working, and so I knew what I had to do. It is what it is. But moving back to Berlin, for some reason, it never entered my mind.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. I think my gut just knew that if I was ever going to make something in terms of music, I had to stay in London.
Right.
I just wasn't interested in going back to Berlin.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was working crazy hours. It was insane. It was like running from job to job, you know, doing a job 9 to 5, then coming back and then starting my pub shift from 7 to, you know, like, and then crashing in a room with 3 other people, whatever, you know, like.
Did what you had to do.
It was a lot, but, you know, I made it happen somehow, you know?
Made it happen. That's what you got to do in life. After all that hustling, when did the big break come?
Well, I don't really believe in big breaks, to be honest.
Not?
No, not at
tell me
all.
why. I'm
Not at
actually
all.
interested.
Because I think you get certain phone calls that's changed the trajectory of your path a bit, you know? So I was kind of working. So I was working part-time, teaching, doing piano lessons, playing in piano bars. So not really doing anything I really wanted to do. But I didn't realize that because back then I was thinking, well, I'm still a musician in London. Yeah, I don't want to teach. Yeah, I don't want to play like in hotel bars where nobody cares. But it's still music. I'm still doing my thing.
Still doing what
know?
you love, yeah.
And one phone call that kind of changed my path was when one of my friends from university called me up and said, "Hannah, there's a pop artist and we need you to play keyboards." And I'd never really played keyboards before that. I'd never done a pop gig before, you know. But he was just like, "Listen, don't worry about it. There's 2 keyboard players on the gig. The other keyboard player is another good friend of ours. He's going to show you the ropes, you know." And I do what I always do, which is just say yes. Yes. And then like research and figure it out later. Just like, whatever, I'll just figure it out later, you know?
Yeah, and that pop artist was...
So the first one was, I don't even know if you guys will know, it was a singer called Charlotte Church.
Yes, she was on The Masked Singer actually last year, I think.
Oh yeah, could be. Yeah. So she was a classical singer that ended up becoming a pop singer. So I kind of walked into the rehearsals, had all the keyboards there, and those.
How was it like your first time working with such an artist?
It was like, it was really cool in a way because first of all, I didn't really I was so used because I was doing jazz gigs, so I was always like running around carrying my own keyboards up and down stairs, you know. I was having trainers in my backpack so I can do it was a hard slog. So and in pop gigs you have techs, which means you have keyboard techs who like set up your gear.
Set up everything for you.
know. As I walked into rehearsal and there was like some dude like under my keyboards like setting up the pedals. I was like, "Bro, don't worry about it. I got it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Nah, Hannah, that's my job." I was like, "What?
Right.
I'm never going back to jazz again." You know. And I just really I really took to pop rehearsals and playing for pop artists because I liked the discipline of it. I liked working so long on just one song. One day we'd spend on one song. Whereas in jazz, you might have rehearsals. Sometimes you don't even have rehearsals, In jazz, you do like 20 songs in a rehearsal and then you just do the gig,
Yeah.
Pop was different because like every sound was thought about, every lick was thought about, every, like all the decisions had to tie in with the lights and the choreography and and the set list. And there was something about that precision that I really loved, I really took to it. So Charlotte Church was like my first gig, and the keyboards that were there were Yamaha keyboards.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like, again, didn't know anything about keyboards, didn't know really anything about brands. Those were just the first keyboards that the other keyboard player had set up for me.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I like these keyboards. And then a couple of months later, I got like another big call. I got called to do Gnarls Barkley. But I had no keyboards, right?
Oh, no.
And I was just like, and I had no money to buy. These keyboards are super expensive. So I was like, Google, Yamaha, call. And I was like, hi guys, you don't know me. My name's Hannah. Like, you've never heard of me, but I'm doing Gnarls Barkley and I need some keyboards.
Yeah.
And whoever was on the phone, I actually don't remember who actually picked up the phone. They must have just taken pity on me because they're like, sure, Hannah, we'll send you some keyboards. And that was the beginning of my relationship with Yamaha. And to this day, from that random phone call of like, hey guys, you don't know me, but I just need some keyboards. To this day, like, they endorse me, they sort me out, they hook me up, they are my supporters. I have such a great relationship with them.
That's amazing.
And it's crazy to think where it starts, like just a random phone call and the right person picking up.
And the right person.
But again,
absolutely.
like I always say this, I wasn't scared of making that phone call because it's like, what other options do I have?
Yeah, of course.
I couldn't buy a keyboard and I needed it,
It's so funny when you mentioned earlier that you went to your first like pop gig and the setup, and when you wanted to do everything yourself, and there was like no, because I remember the same thing happened to me when I was going from gig to gig, and I was like having my suitcase and everything, and then when I did my first festival, I got on stage and I was getting ready to wire everything up, and they said no, we do that, and I was like, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's my job. So it made me laugh when you said that. From that experience, did you think, okay, this is the kind of lane you wanted to be in? Did you have more of an idea, like this is the lane I want to go into now? Or did you still think, actually, there's more out there for me?
You know what? Because I took to it so naturally, and not only did I enjoy it, I was also good at it. For some reason, it came naturally to me, like programming, and I was always good with kind of computers and technology and all of that. It came quite naturally to me, and I just So I knew I was going to go down this path for a while, and especially once I had my gear, once I had my keyboards, I was in many ways I was kind of set, like I had my keyboards and like I was getting better and better at programming. In terms of professionalism, is something I've always just had. I'm always prepared and on time and all of that. That's just something from my parents or whatever. Like that's just something I've always had. I think that's a German, Indian. Like we're there on time, we're prepared. Like that's just in me.
Yeah.
And the kind of the bigger gigs just started coming quite fast,
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a second, but like I did Gnarls Barkley for a while. Then
No, don't tell me yet, because I want to play a little game. I haven't actually prepped my crew for this.
That's funny.
Okay. I haven't prepped them at all.
Yeah.
But I want to put 10 seconds on the clock, and I want you to name drop as many artists as you can that you have played with on stage, or just behind the scenes, but not producer-wise.
Okay,
piano.
just played. Yeah.
So does anyone have like a 10-second, or
That's
you can
funny.
count with your... You can see it on the camera. See, look at
see
that. See,
all
even though they're not prepared, they are prepared still.
Always.
Okay, so can you tell me when to start? You got a name drop in 10 seconds, as many people as you can.
Only people I've played with. Okay.
Only people you've played with, and then we're gonna do produced for after.
Yeah.
Ready? Yep.
Rihanna, Jesse J, Anastasia, Sugar Babes, Girls Aloud, Jason Derulo, Jay Sean, Ty.
No way. Was that 10 seconds?
That was 10 seconds.
Hold on. I feel like we need another 10. There were so many names. I wasn't ready for that many names. My face was just like, what? Jason? What? Sugar Babes? What? Okay, tell me the rest.
Where was I? So, Ty Cruz. Oh, now, Daniel Merriweather, that was super fun. There's an artist called David Jordan, Layla Hathaway. There's probably more, but I did a couple of TV shows as well, so that was
No
fun,
way.
like house bands. So that was really cool. Yeah, a lot, babes. There's been a lot.
Insane.
I've played for a lot of artists.
Anyone that's giving you like a memory that it was just like, wow, I'll never forget this moment. Like, who's your favorite person you've worked with?
I mean, if I had to name one gig, it was doing "Love the Way You Lie" with Rihanna and Eminem.
Oh my gosh, that must have been amazing.
LA in Staples Center when Eminem was our special guest, and the crowd didn't know, and that was when "Love the Way You Lie" was number one, and the crowd flipped. And not only that, almost the best part of it was my whole family, my extended family were there. My family live in, my uncles and aunts, a lot of them live in Orange County, close to LA, and my grandma was in the audience.
Oh my gosh, that
you
must
know,
have been amazing.
and so that was like, if I had to name one situation where I'm just like, I cannot believe that happened.
Yeah,
that was playing with Rihanna, you know,
wow,
which was insane, absolutely
How did you
insane.
get that opportunity? Did you just phone Rihanna up one day and was like,
hey girl,
I'd love to play for you. Like, what you do this weekend?
You know what?
Staples Center?
The world works in a crazy way, and that's why I always say it's so important. Always put your best foot forward because you never know who's watching, you know?
Yeah.
So I was on tour for an artist called David Jordan. He was signed to Mercury, and we were supporting someone. We were supporting Enrique, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The musical director of Enrique was also the musical director of Rihanna. So he saw me, we hung, whatever, no big deal, didn't think about it too much, you know. 4 years later, Rihanna's in rehearsals, etc. One of the keyboard players drops out and he needs a keyboard player immediately. And for some reason, I popped into his head.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what, I think I want to try this chick out of London.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, it was an all-American band. It's not that easy, you know. But he's just like, nah, I've got a feeling. I got a call on a Tuesday. At this point, I was with the Sugar Babes. I got a call on a Tuesday and was on a plane on a Friday.
No way.
And kind of didn't come back for a year, you know?
For a year?
Yeah. It was like a world tour.
No way.
So it was insane. And again, I just popped into his head. He'd met me.
That's got to be something to do with you, though, and how you came across, because like you said, you're in London. He could have called someone that was already out
in
there.
LA, like literally.
Do you know what I mean? There's so many
away.
people that are hungry in LA.
Yeah.
But he thought of you. That must have felt so rewarding.
Well, it was scary, babes.
Yeah.
It was scary. It was the scariest 3 weeks. Can I say of my life? Possibly. Because I arrive in LA, I go to rehearsals, everybody's just playing through the set.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's no keyboards. I walk to my keyboard stand, like everything in the States is like bigger. So like even normal rehearsals are like massive rooms and everybody's on risers already and everything, you know. And I walk to my rise and there's like literally like one keyboard stand and no keyboards. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So again, call up my Yamaha homies. It's like, guys, hook me up.
Hook you up.
Hook a girl up because I need some keyboards right now. And, you know, rehearsals didn't stop for me just because I was a new musician there. They were just playing the set every day through a couple of times. Nobody was stopping for me. Nobody's asking, Hannah, what do you need? Nothing, you know?
Right.
So I was just like, had to figure out real fast, like, who to get my information from. Because the musical director who had hired me, he was, like, super busy with, like, dealing with other stuff, of course, you know? Figured out what I need to play. And, you know, I had the same setup of keyboard set up in London and had like a friend. So every night I'd like send my programming over to London. One of my programmers in London would like help continue programming, send it back to me. I'd be up all night learning the music. And within 3 days I could play the set. Wow. And that was that,
3 days.
I mean, but I cried like every day in the hotel.
Oh, no.
Oh, babes, because I was so stressed, you know, because it's like so scary and you're literally in a room with the best musicians in the world, you know, and you're like, I'm so happy that I'm here, but what am I doing here? You know, like part of that like kind of came to me. But once I started to get into it and like when into the tour, I went to the guys and I was like, guys, why didn't anybody like come talk to me and like take me out for a drink, like, or whatever, like, and they're like, oh, Hannah, you just seemed so confident that we just thought you were cool.
Yeah. Oh,
and I was like, you know what? The lesson to be learned is sometimes you just got to ask for help.
Absolutely.
You know, because I was 100% like poker facing all the way through, but I could have gone to someone and been like, hey, can we maybe hang? Can we just maybe chill for a couple of, you know, like, because it's quite scary for me being thrown into the situation, but I didn't say nothing. So now I know to like
in the future
be a bit more open, you know.
Absolutely.
But it was like, absolutely, like I said before, sometimes you just say yes and figure it out later. listen, that was one of those
But you just
situations.
say yes to figure it out later.
And I figured it out later, you know? But I did it.
So I know people would kill me if
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask you, what was it like working with Rihanna?
Listen, man, I've got nothing but love for Queen Riri. Not that I judge people, but one of the ways that endears me to people is how they treat my family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because family is very important to me. And when I played in Berlin, where my parents live, my parents came to soundcheck. Ree went straight to my parents, gave them a big hug. Thank you so much for letting Hannah with, and things like that mean.
Yeah.
That's one thing. When I tell you the way my sister and Ree bonded, do you know this?
No.
Babes, because I kept flying my sister in, yeah?
No way.
And at the end of the day, Ree's my boss, yeah?
Yeah.
So there's only a certain amount I'm going to party.
Of
She's
course.
my boss.
Yeah.
My sister don't care.
Yeah.
When I tell you, my sister and Ree, where's Joe? Oh, she's in the corner with Ree.
No.
And-
Wait, my mind's blown.
Oh, please. Ree and Joe hung out every time. Every time, like, Ree would come up to me. He's like, hey, girl, where's your sister? Where's Joe? Where's Joe?
No.
There's one point where we were meant to go to an after party and the tour manager was like, no way, Joe. Joe can't come. Joe can't come. It's guest list only.
Yeah.
And then, like, Ree walks in and she's like, what do you mean Joe can't come? Of course she's coming.
No
Done.
way.
And the way she embraced my sister, again, like things like that mean a lot to me because it tells me about you.
Yeah.
You know, it tells me that you understand that it's about family and it's about the bigger picture. So that's one thing I will always forever like love and respect her for it. But also, I think the one thing people don't see is how hard she works. I think the year I was with her, she had like one day off the whole year.
Oh, wow.
You know? When we were touring in the States, there was a tour bus on the road with us. So let's say we do the show. So let's start in the morning. So Ree kind of has to get ready about 2:00 or whatever, do meet and greet at 4, do a sound check around 2ish, then do her meet and greet 4 to 7 or whatever. Then the show's 9 to 11:30, something like that. Then we go to a club. Everybody's like, we go partying. No, it's a club appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ree goes to a club, couple of hours. Get back to the tour buses at 2 a.m, something like that. Then Ree goes to the studio bus.
Wow.
Records vocals. So her engineers are there. Her vocal producer's on the road with us. You know, she cuts vocals until 5 a.m, 6 a.m, sleeps.
Oh my gosh.
And does the whole thing again, sings the whole show live. It's a show with 7 costume changes and all the choreography. And the days we had off where we were traveling, she'd be back in LA shooting a video or doing whatever, you know?
Wow.
And that's one thing people don't see,
We
man.
don't see that, do we?
My girl works hard.
Yeah.
Works hard. So I was really, and again, we know that nobody gets to the top without working
Absolutely.
hard, you know? But that was something I was like, I really was impressed with her work ethic, you know?
Something you said earlier, you mentioned that how people treat your family shows you what kind of person they are, and that means a lot to you. So that means family, obviously, I'm guessing it means a lot to you as well. Your family, when you made the move to London, also came with you, not straight away, but after a while. So tell me about that experience.
So my sister came over to London, I think when I was in my 3rd year at university, and my brother came kind of 4 years after I was here. And I think I saw something in London and in the UK, opportunities that we didn't necessarily have in Germany. And, you know, we don't have to get too deep into it, but our skin color is definitely part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And I saw the UK being, even though the UK has its own issues, of course, compared to Germany, especially back then, the opportunities I was seeing here for people of color, the opportunities to make something of yourself, to start from scratch, to try things out. We didn't have that in Germany,
Right.
you know? And I saw what it did for me, you know? Like, it helped me find my identity. It helped me really be a proud Indian woman, you know, being here. And it helped me find my path. And I wanted the same for my brother and sister, you know, because I was lost in Germany, and I feel I can, you know, I can't speak for themselves, but I feel they probably will say something similar.
Yeah.
And coming over here and meeting more people that come from similar backgrounds, you know, from similar financial situations, from the similar struggle, and being able to share that, it just helps.
Yeah.
You know, and so them coming over here, as hard as it was for all of us and the family, and just trying to make ends meet, and if somebody would ask me what's your proudest achievement in your life, I'd say that's that.
Yeah.
Bringing my brother and sister over. Because look at what they're doing now.
Of course.
They're killing it.
Absolutely.
You know?
How do you feel like you've kind of paved that way, not only for your family, but I feel like you've inspired so many other people as well. Like, how does that make you feel? Because, like I said, you wasn't born here, and you came here, studied, and you still made something out of yourself. How does that actually feel?
It makes me feel, I'm just humbled by it. Do you know what I mean? Because again, and not to get too deep into faith and all of that, but I come from a Christian background, and so for me, everything is like, I'm just walking the path that's shown, you know, and it's not for me. It's not for me. It's never for me. You know, it's like I'm just doing what God wants me to do. You know, and hopefully like shining an example. And I've always, not always, but you know, like I've like really tried to hold that true, and therefore and so the fact that certain doors have opened for me and opportunities have come to me that really are. Like me getting the Rihanna gig is a miracle. That doesn't happen to UK or European musicians, that you get a call to join an American band. You know, like that just doesn't happen. Things like that, little things that have, not little things, big things that have happened in my life where I'm just like, I don't even know how I got this, you know? And so I guess I try and I feel a responsibility to walk this path with grace. Do you know what I mean? And just be an example of another way to be in the music industry, you know? Yeah. Which is like, just be full of love and excitement, enthusiasm. I'm just here to make the world a better place, man. And my medium is music. That's it. Yeah. You know? And so, yeah, I just find it humbling, and I find it amazing that people are inspired by me. But I also feel like I haven't even started yet. There's so many things I still want to do, you know? So, yeah.
You was killing it. Still are killing it. I say was like it was a past thing. Still are killing it. But in terms of what you was doing at that time, you was killing it. So what made you think, okay, I've worked with Rihanna, Tyler Crew, Sugar Babes, all these amazing people. Why did you say, okay, now I want to flex my other musical gifts and do producing? What made you want to do that?
You know what? There was a point. So I was with Jesse J, who's obviously one of the best singers in the world. It was incredible.
So talented.
And I was with her for 3 years. And during the last year, I got a feeling in my stomach. At this point, I'd played more or less all the stages in the world I wanted to play. You know, I'd done Wembley Stadium, I'd done Staples Center, I'd done Madison Square Garden, I'd done the O2 like 20 times or whatever here. You know, like I'd done my thing. And I started to realize that all that traveling was taking a toll on me. So it was taking a toll on my relationships, on my you know, like my friends, my family. Like people stop missing you after a while when you're constantly gone, you know? And then when I'm back, I'm tired and hungover and, you know, just like I'm just here for a week or two and then I'm back off again, you know? I started feeling like a ghost.
Right.
And I kept thinking, is this the rest of my life? Just like, you know, another pop star and me just, you know, playing for them, which again, it sounds crazy because I was living the dream. I was living the dream, you know? But I was thinking, is this my dream? Whose dream is this that I'm living? You know, because I'm a jazz musician. I want to make music, you know? Right. Like, I want to create, you know? And so for the last year of me being on the road, I wasn't very happy, you know? But I didn't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because how do you do? You're like one of the main session musicians in the UK. This is how I pay my rent. What do I do? What's my next move, you know? And absolutely, completely unexpectedly, I was always producing on the side. Totally unexpectedly, I got a record deal with Sony.
Wow.
Did not expect it.
Wow.
And this gave me the opportunity to quit being a session musician, you know? I got the deal. So my last tour with Jesse was an arena tour. It was a UK arena tour. I already knew I was leaving, but nobody else knew, you know?
No.
And when I tell you, like, I cherished every single stage, every single walk up the stage, because I was like, I will probably never be on an arena stage again, you know? Cause
you knew that from that point on?
Kind of, because I knew I was changing my life, you know? And so, like all you know, like every stage, I really like cherished it. All the free catering, I was like,
Yeah, take it
all the food,
now.
man, because I don't know when I'm going to get free food again, you know. But on a real, I was just like, I knew in my heart it was a goodbye tour for me, you know.
Oh no, you make it sound like that.
Yeah, it was
Farewell
hardcore, you know.
tour.
And then I came, once I'd signed my deals and all of that, like Jessie was the first person I called.
Really?
And
So you
told
guys
her,
are still...
Yeah. And
Oh.
I wanted her to hear from me, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I said, listen, I have another opportunity, you have to take it. And she's like, of course you have to understand it. The second word got out that, you know, I'd quit Jessie. I got 4 world tours offered within the next 2 days.
No.
Yeah, because I was that chick, right?
You were known.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm about to change my entire life. But in my head, I knew, in my heart, I knew that if I was going to be really good at producing, I spent all my life playing piano to get this good.
Yeah.
I need to put in a similar amount of time. I need to into production. So I know I need to do it full time. I can't be on tour and produce in the hotel room. So I knew that wasn't going to work for me, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was super emotional, like putting my suitcases away, you know, and just being like, whoa, I guess now I'm not a session musician anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And honestly, the first 6 months were really hard because I'd been on the road for 8 years, you know?
8 years.
That was my life, you know, like... I'd like see all my friends on tour being in like certain hotels. I was like, oh my God, I love that hotel in Singapore. Oh my God, I can't believe you're on the safari. I want to, you know, like I was so jealous, but also I'd made that decision, right? So I was confused. And also in terms of music, I was a producer. I was signed to Sony as a producer artist, you know? So, and they're like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I actually have no idea.
Yeah.
Because I've been a session musician for 8 years. I do as I'm told in many ways. You know, my musical director tells me, like, gives me the parts. This is what we want to do. Yeah, there's certain bits where I can flex a bit, but really and truly, we're there to play the songs as they've been written. You know, and so it took me a long time to kind of come around to think as an artist. You know, but about 6 months into it, I was like, hold on, my job is like to go studio and just like do whatever I'm hearing. This is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so once I got into it, I kind of. I was able to understand the gift I'd been given, you know, but it took me a second, for
So
sure.
it was definitely a bit scary at first because you was literally going from a world tour, being on stage, and then you got even more offers when you decided to cancel that, and then saying, no, I'm sticking to my guns.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do, and I'm going to put everything into that. Was that still scary, not knowing?
It was so scary because also the other thing I realized really fast is like nobody in studio world cares that I've played for Rihanna. They're like, well, have you written or produced for her? I was like,
Right,
no.
yeah.
So I had to start from the bottom. Nobody knew me as a producer, which means nobody cared.
Yeah.
You know? So all the things I'd achieved, my stripes didn't count, you know? And that was humbling.
Yeah.
You know, because I was used to for a couple of years now being that chick, you know, and all of a sudden you ain't that chick, you're just some chick, you know.
Yeah.
And so I need to, and you know, like it was humbling, it was hard, like it was hard for my ego, starting from scratch, and also I had to become a good producer, you know.
Did you teach yourself to produce?
I taught myself initially, but also I was on the road with amazing producers, with a band called Bugs in the Attic for a while, who were a collective of producers, so I learned a lot from them. Then when I signed my deal, initially I was co-producing everything with a good friend of mine called Kors, who taught me everything as well. You know, how to be a professional producer, because I knew how to produce. I didn't know how to produce professionally.
Yeah.
So the whole different thing, being like, you know, what, you know, knowing what the label expects, giving the different versions, this mix, that mix, you know. And so I was very lucky that I had good people around me teaching me, you know.
Right.
And so a year into it, I was like, I can do this now. I think I'm ready, you know. But the first 3-4 years of me being a producer were hard because I had no production jobs. I had nobody wanted to work with me. Nobody knew about me, even though I was signed to a major, you know, and the
Record
releases
label.
still did all right. Still, like, nobody cared really, you know?
No one had any work to go off just quite yet. Still kind of like, who's this girl? Do you know what I mean?
That was hard. And there was definitely moments there. And I was still getting tours offered the whole time.
The whole time he's at
You
Sony
know,
still.
and there was moments where even the ones closest to me were like, Hannah, what? And I was like, I know, I hear you, because you see me struggling. You're saying this out of love.
Yeah.
Because you see me struggling, you know, depressed and broke, with nobody wanting to work with me, no studio, no nothing,
Yeah.
you know, and you're saying out of love, why don't you take a little tour? But the same way I stayed in London, because I just knew I had to, it's the same thing. I just knew, I was just like, I have to stick this out, man. I know my gut's saying, stick it out, stick it out, stick it out. You know, I ain't going down without a fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, at some point, things slowly started turning around.
Did you go from a freelancer like playing for people, and then when you signed to Sony, was you still considered a freelancer, or was you under a contract with?
I had a deal a deal with Sony for an EP and a couple of singles, so I could have still toured and all of that.
Okay, you could have.
But I just quit.
Right, cold turkey.
Cold turkey.
Wow.
Cold turkey.
So after a year, started paying off. Who was the first artist you produced for?
I don't even remember who exactly the first one was, but I think JP Cooper was like the first artist. We started working together kind of 2-3 years after I started. I became like a full-time producer, and that's kind of like the musical relationship that took me to the next level. You know, so we met. In the studio. We actually had met each other on the road before. I was playing for an artist, and he was supporting us. And we just hit it off, and this was before he was signed, but we just started slowly making music together. Then he got assigned to Ireland, and initially I was just like playing on the records, and then I started producing for him. So on his first album I produced a couple of tracks. I produced the title track called Grey Skies, and I produced a track with him and Stormzy, and they did it at my studio as well, which was incredible. And that album went top 10, and that was my first plaque and everything.
Wow, straight off the back.
Wow. Yeah, and so that was like the first time where I was just like, oh my gosh, this might actually work.
Yeah.
This might actually
sigh of relief.
Work. And you know what, babes? Exactly that. People like ask me still when they see my plaques on my wall, they're like, what do you think when you see them? And I was like, I'm relieved. Because it wasn't in my head.
Yeah.
I knew like if you make great music with people you love, that's meaningful, it resonates.
Yeah. What do you think you would have done if it didn't turn out the way it did? Do you think you might have said, okay, you know what, just give it up now, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before? Or do you think you still would be like, no, I can do this?
Always.
Really?
That's me. I just keep going. I keep going, I think that's like one of the qualities about me that's the most annoying. I am stubborn.
Taurus, right?
Taurus.
Yeah, I remember this from last time we spoke.
Stubborn. No don't mean no to me, It just means not yet, And I put in the work.
Yeah.
That's the thing, I'm not just stubborn, but I put in the work. And that's the thing with my whole artist journey and producer journey. I really had to constantly adapt, because I was finding out things about myself, I was finding out, because initially I was making music. There was a really crazy moment for me, because when I first signed and I was first making music, my own music, I didn't play the piano a lot, because all the other artists on the label were like kind of dance producers and like all really cool, and nobody was like coming from a musical background.
Right.
And so I was just like, I don't want to be that music geek from music college, And then like years later, so I was signed to DJ Target's label, and years later,
sick.
He was playing a track of mine, and he still supports me, bless him, forever, man. He's, a G. Years later, he was playing a track of mine on his show, and he was like, this is Hannah from Hannah. She's one of the best pianists I've ever met.
Wow.
And I was thinking, I had a real moment of like, you stopped playing because you thought nobody was telling you they loved you the way you were.
Yeah.
They loved you. They loved who you were. They signed you for who you were. Why was I thinking to myself, I had to be more like so and so and so and so?
Of course, yeah.
Like when Target was just like, she's one of the best pianists I've ever met. It's always amazing hearing her play. Why did I stop putting that element of me? I'm a pianist. Why did I stop putting that element into my music? Because I was trying to make music for them, whoever them is.
Yeah.
And that's all a journey. It just takes a long time to kind of realize that we are who we are, and we might as well just own it and be proud of it.
Exactly that. I was going to ask you about what it was like to be a woman in this, because you said that sometimes it's a bad thing that you say no and no, and you always say yes, and you're stubborn, even though I don't think you are. But I think being in this industry, you need to be like that, because otherwise you'll fall at the first hurdle. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So having said that, what do you think it's like being a woman in this industry? Do you think it's a bit harder? Do you think it's easier? Do you think... I know a lot of people, for me, sometimes say like, oh, you're there because you're just a pretty face. And I'm like... No, I'm not. I've got the talent to back it. Yeah, it might have opened the doors, but to keep it open, I had to actually prove myself. So how do you find being a woman in this industry has either helped or hindered you?
It's a tricky thing, because there's a couple of things that you have to take. Like, first of all, even as a musician, I was the only woman in Rihanna's band. I've so often been the only woman in the band. And I remember even back then playing for Ree, I'd come to like the after parties or whatever, and somebody from the support band would be like, "Oh, whose girlfriend are you?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"Bro,
yeah.
you're literally supporting me, yeah?
Right.
Like, put some respect, you know?" But again, it happens so much, so many times that you, after a while, that's why you never see me at industry parties, babe. I don't go there because I'm tired of having to explain, "What do you do?" "I'm a producer." "Oh, really? I'm sure you sing, though." You know, I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
I'm tired of that, you know?
It's never, I can just be a straight, like, I'm producing,
No.
that's it. It's always
And if
like,
a guy
"Oh."
comes in, is anybody going to say, if they say they're a singer, you're saying, cool. If they say they're a producer, cool. If they say they're an engineer, cool. You don't even
You
question
don't
it.
question it.
You know? So yes, it is tricky. And the one thing that's hard for me is every time I work with someone new, I have to prove myself.
Yeah.
Because people don't quite believe I can do what I can do, right? And it's tiring.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of having to prove I do what I do. I'm good at what, you know, like Google me, like I'm good at what I do.
Yeah.
But
Have you ever
still,
said that to anyone? Like, Google
nah,
me?
because you know me, I'm too nice.
I know you
I'm
would
not like,
never.
I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell my sister, and she'll be the feisty one, you know.
Yeah, she will
Yeah,
definitely be
but-
like, this is my sister. Like,
But I don't ever say, because again, I'm like, it doesn't matter, Hannah. Like, make sure, like, don't let your ego, you know, like that's, if they don't know who you are, that's their problem. It's not your problem. You've said you said who you are. If they don't believe you, that's not your problem.
Yeah.
So I find that tricky. I find that you're never gonna find me handing my work in late. My work being nothing short of exceptional every single time. Because not only I'm a female, I'm also a person of color, you know. So,
Yeah.
and these things, especially in production world, they don't exist a lot, you know. So I have to, my work has to be exemplary.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's tiring, you know. And so I'm very picky about what I work on now, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm going to work that hard, it's got to be on stuff I believe,
right.
you know. But also, you know, I think things are slowly changing. I think it's important for people like me to break certain barriers, you know, smash through certain doors. Because I feel like the next generation, or you lot, I think you guys ain't taking that anymore. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
When people say stuff, you ain't taking it. You're like,
No.
like you said, just because I'm hot doesn't mean I'm not good at my job. Let's not get this twisted. You know, I just make it look good as well. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so I think you guys are like more, in many ways, more equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, I
you know,
think
because there's and so I'm very, very, very hopeful for the future. I did like an amazing production talk like a couple of years ago for a company called Native Instruments, and there were so many female producers and engineers in the room, and when I tell you, I almost
Amazing.
burst into tears
Yeah.
standing up there. I was like, don't cry, because I was like, this is it. This is like, it was only me for such a long time, and now look at this room
Yeah.
of incredible, talented people that are just like, yep, I do this too. I'm a musician, I'm a producer, I'm an engineer, I'm a this, I'm a
Yeah.
that. You all are owning it, you know? So I'm very excited to see where we're at in 10 years. But I think it's really important. The only way people are going to start thinking female producers are normal is if we're kind of more exposed, if there's
Absolutely.
more hits coming from female producers. You know, we need
Yes.
things like that. We just need, and that's why it works. One of the reasons I work as hard as I do, you know, success speaks for itself.
It's true, because there's so many females that are killing it right now, but the exposure is just not
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And you either have to do research to find out that, oh, did you know like a woman directed
Yeah,
that film? Or
yeah.
it's never just put out there. But with a man, it's like, you know, you've heard of so many directors, producers, you know, that are male. But like I said, women have to kind of fight to get their
Yeah.
name out there. Who's your favorite or favorite song you've produced, if you have one? I know they're probably like all like your babies.
That's hard.
But do you have
That's
like
hard.
a top three?
That's hard. Top three, so it's got to be something from J.P. Cooper. I don't know which one. I love the track with Stormzy, because that was a really like special moment. The track's called Mama's Prayers, and Stormzy came into
Tune.
the studio and kind of, he just said, listen, I want to write about how me being where I am and me staying out of trouble has got to do a lot with Mama's Prayers, you know? And I was like, oh my gosh, same here, you know? And JP comes from like a spiritual background as well, so we could all really relate to it. So that's a really special track for me. Then there's a track called Yo Show with Lavish K, which is just like, I love the beat I made on that. He's a rapper, he's amazing. And then there's a really special song called Everything's Changing that I'm so proud as well. It's one of my best friends called Jo Harrop. She's a jazz singer, and we wrote and produced this over the pandemic, and it was all like kind of about how the world is changing and how you feel so lost, you know, and how like just know you're not alone. And like that whole topic was like I still listen to that song
Yeah.
when I'm when I feel like down, you know, because you forget that it's yours. Once it's out there, it's not yours anymore anyways, you know. So that's a really special song.
That's really cool to be able to produce something for the mass people and then like, you know, you put it out there, but it's something that's part of you.
Yeah.
So you've been very successful.
Thank you.
It's come with a lot of hard work, but very successful. Have you ever done something and then was like, okay, this was my big break, even though you don't believe in big breaks, but was like, yeah, this is it. I'm just going to rock it off now. And then it's not turned out that way.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Listen, part of life is ups and downs, ups and downs and ups and downs. You know, like things have not worked out for me a million times more than things have worked out for me.
Yeah.
99 no's, 1 yes. That's my life. That's our lives, you know, in creative. So the one thing I'm also getting pretty good at, and I'm pretty good at, is rejection, because that is just part of the job.
How does that affect you mentally, rejection?
It's really hard because I think especially when I was younger, it makes you doubt yourself and makes you want to give up, you know, like, but now the older I get and the more, in many ways, the more secure I am, not in my abilities, but in me as a human being. My goal in life is to react exactly the same to an amazing phone call to a bad phone call. It's just news.
Wow.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but it's just news.
It's news.
Because again, if you get too gassed about the successes, you can't do that either. You know, like you just have to, like, life is life, and it comes with, you know, great news and comes with bad news. It doesn't make me less of a musician.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make me less of a good human being. Doesn't mean I'm trying. I didn't try as hard. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So that is like very much part. But of course, sometimes it gets you down. Of course, you know, like there are days where you're just like, I don't even want to go studio. I just need to like lick my wounds and have a drink and just like not think about it for a second. Of course, you know, I'm only human. But and I feel like that's never going to stop. You know, like it doesn't matter how big my successes seem. There's always going to be bigger rejections behind the closed doors that we don't talk about.
Absolutely.
You know?
Do you have any advice for any of our young listeners about maybe how to get into music and then how to stay on the right path?
Yeah. So how to get into music, I think, work with your friends. Start from that place of don't even think about it as a job or not as a job. Just if you're passionate about it, do it with your friends. Collaboration. Hang out in each other's bedrooms or whatever, and just start something. You know, like having a little community of people you can run around to and show each other's tracks to and stuff like that is so important. Don't look for the bigger rooms. Don't wonder why so and so's not working with you or anything like that. Work with your friends. Start there. You know. And in terms of like kind of how to stay in it, how to keep going, I think like things I've touched upon before, just like stay true to who you are, like really, really kind of like be comfortable in your own skin, you know, and that's going to like shine in your art as well. And be a nice person. Don't like, it's so, again, collaboration and working with people. It's not only in music, you know, I work with PR, I work with photographers, with videographers, with, you know, designers, this, that. Relationships are so important, and people will work harder if they're on your side. You know, it's got nothing to do with what your product is. It's like, if I like, and I know I'm the same in the studio, if I like you as a human being, I am going to ride for you. You know, I'm going to do whatever you need, you know. So just actually try and look at my relationship with Yamaha. It came out of a genuine, they're friends now, you know, genuine relationships. Life is about relationships, man. It ain't even about the success. All of that stuff is a byproduct of you having a good relationship with people. So really go out there and try and make an impact, try and make a difference in people's lives, and then see how everything else opens up around you.
You know, there's a saying that reminded me of, and it's like, if you go somewhere alone, you'll go, is it fast? But if you go with company or friends, you'll go further.
Yeah.
And I
love
truly
that.
believe that.
I absolutely believe that as well.